looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big run in the Beach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Excited to bring everybody into a Victory Monday show. The Bearcats break their 6-game losing streak on the gridiron, and they get the job done over Bowling Green 34-20. Neil Meyer and I will recap that, discuss some of the injury news coming out of the game, and touch on a major performance across the first couple weeks for the Cincinnati Bearcats, one Cincinnati Bearcats defender in particular. But first, we got to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where there is currently not a betting line for the Bearcats' action against Northwestern State Demons, because Northwestern State is one of the worst FCS schools in the country, arguably the worst. And Cincinnati, I mean, there's just no way to properly put a line on this game right now, so they do not really have one at any major sports book. You can go to FanDuel Sportsbook right now, though, and bet on Cincinnati to win the Big 12. Cincinnati, after week 2, currently sitting at 30-1, holding firm among the kind of lower tier of the contenders in the Big 12 right now. The top odds to win the Big 12 currently sit with Utah at plus 410, then Texas Tech at 5-1, TCU at 6-1, and Iowa State at 7-1. My pick to win the 2025 Big 12 championship. If you want to roll with me and pick Iowa State, you can get them at 7-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook, or you can take the big long shot with the Bearcats at 30-1. All available at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Quick break, then we'll get into the bulk of the show right here on Bearcat Blitz across the Believe Network. Neil, the Bearcats got the job done 34-20 on Saturday afternoon. Didn't cover in this contest as 23.5-point favorites. They gave up 20 points to Bowling Green, 372 total yards. They let the Bowling Green State Falcons completely control the flow of the game, with Drew Pine going a whopping 29 of 36 for 274 yards and a touchdown. The second consecutive quarterback they've let pass for 75% or better completion on the season, but they hold another opponent to 20 points or less. And outside of the third quarter, it was pretty much a complete performance for the Bearcats, although they are pretty much have only put together 4 complete quarters in the Scott Satterfield era just once now. And Neil, there's really no more opportunities for Cincinnati to kind of dominate a real opponent the rest of the season. Maybe one of these teams at the bottom of the Big 12, looking at Oklahoma State after a 60-plus point loss to Oregon, is going to be a really big bottom feeder, and maybe one of those teams outside of the top 65 to 70 rankings nationally. But you only get one real chance to prove you can destroy a MAC school and a team outside the top 100 that we're going to take any modicum of seriousness with. I'm not putting any stock into Northwestern State. They could win 80-10. And it wouldn't matter to me. It's just nothing is going to matter from this upcoming weekend except staying healthy and keeping the starters away from harm's way. That's the top priority against a team like Northwestern State that's now forfeited 6 times since 2022. 6 forfeits since 2022. We'll hold off most of our comments on Northwestern State for later in the week. But, Neil, it was a C- performance for me. Brendan Sorsby was fantastic passing the football. Jake Golday was fantastic tackling ball carriers and getting another sack to boost his NFL draft stock once again. But just another performance, Neil, where things didn't come together in the Scott Satterfield era.
Yeah, Russ, and I would sit there right there with you, and I would grade Saturday's performance as a C for me.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because, you saw some things you wanted to see on the offensive side of the ball, right? You wanted to see Brendan Sorsby air it out. How would he respond after the Nebraska loss? Which, for me, Russ, I thought it was really cool to hear him say, hey, I came in with a chip on my shoulder this week. I told the receivers I'm going to air it out. It was cool to hear Cyrus Allen kind of break that down and said, hey, he was working with all of us beyond the clock this week to make sure this offense was going to kind of take that next step versus Bowling Green, which the offense looked good in the passing game at times. I thought they could have been a little bit more explosive, but to see Brendan Sorsby kind of have the opportunity to sit back and throw the ball 17 for 24, 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was something you wanted to see for Cincinnati. However, what you didn't want to see is the run game be basically non-existent again on Saturday. That was something you wanted Cincinnati to kind of get that jump start going there. If the passing game could get open, how would Evan Pryor, how would Tawi Walker kind of handle Max School like Bowling Green?
And specifically those guys, right, Neil? Because in week one, Brendan Sorsby, his 96 yards powered a 200 plus yard performance. You'll take that every day of the week. And they graded out very well in the rushing grade side of things in week one from PFF. But it was not a good performance from the running backs in week one. And it was once again, Neil, another poor performance from the running backs in week two. To put some numbers on that, Cincinnati this week against the Bowling Green State Falcons, two of their five lowest graded players on the team were Evan Pryor at 47 overall, and then Tawi Walker was not one of the five lowest graded, but still just a 61.2 overall grade. That's not going to get it done compared to the rushing ability that Corey Kiner and Jerome Ford have shown for Cincinnati throughout this decade.
Yeah, and absolutely. And when we're talking about the run game too, Russ, you look down, Cincinnati has been a team under Scott Satterfield that has been able to run for 200 plus yards per game roughly. And then you look down at the statistics from Saturday, only 3.6 yards per carry. You would like to see that number a little bit higher, only 106 rushing yards on the day.
And there wasn't any sacks to factor in there. It was a great day by the offensive line pass blocking, but it's not like there was a sack adjusted number to make it look better.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the offensive line too. It's good to see kind of those guys get some rotation. I know I asked Scott Satterfield about it. Getting these guys these early reps early in the season. Obviously, you saw a guy like Xavier Lozowicki get some quality snaps in the second half. Ethan Green
29 snaps for him. That was big.
And Ethan Green got some snaps there at right tackle as well in place of DeAndre Buford. So getting that experience is huge for Cincinnati because those guys are going to play a role for this team down the stretch. So overall, I did like to see that there were guys rotating in the offensive line, but I would like to see a little bit better of an offense there in terms of the rushing attack. That's what you want to get going here versus Northwestern State. But it was good to see Cyrus Allen and Jeff Caldwell kind of had big days. And Russ, we got to talk about it. The one-handed catch from Jeff Caldwell. We haven't talked about it yet. Let's talk about it. What were your thoughts on that catch?
It was stellar. Really, really great job by Brendan Sorsby to give his guy a chance and let the athleticism of Jeff Caldwell show through. And that was good, but we didn't see that against Nebraska, Neil, at all.
Yeah,
we didn't see
we
any
needed
of
to
that.
see the ball going downfield a little bit more.
This is where I'm a little worried about 7-5 record prediction moving forward here, just because, like, can you elevate your passing acumen? Can you get that kind of execution against a real team? And we won't know for 2 weeks at least. And depending on what the Kansas brings to the floor, that's obviously going to be a real opponent. But it's just, it would have been, I don't know how much to take away from it, Neil. It's just like, it's Bowling Green. They were considered to have one of the worst defenses in the country coming into this game. I'm pretty sure they didn't have their top corner, one of the Tennessee State transfers. I'm pretty sure he missed this contest. So they were down a corner in that sense. It's just, I don't know how much stock you can really put into it. It's great to see. It's better than the latter of Brendan Sorsby struggling to pass the football against a team like Bowling Green. And that is the top positive. You got to give the flowers to Brendan Sorsby for being accurate, being on time, and putting up his best grade as a passer at Cincinnati, 92.1 passing grade on PFF. He's never performed better across a 60-minute contest at Cincinnati in terms of passing the football, albeit it is against Bowling Green. And that's where it's just like, Neil, you wanted to see them put the foot on the gas pedal and blow this team out at home, a team that's considered one of the bottom 15 teams in the Football Bowl subdivision. You're expected to do that throughout the week, going from an 18-point favorite to a 24-point favorite. And they just do not make that number change come to fruition, or they do not justify that number change on the betting line. It was just at some point, Neil, are we going to see a hair on fire, we're sick of this stuff performance from the Bearcats? Are we going to see that? Because it's just been a blase kind of low intensity kind of response to a lot of losses in the Scott Satterfield era. And it was that once again on Saturday. It's just like you said, like we've been saying, it was a C- performance in a league where, I mean, it's starting to turn into the Big East, Neil. The Big 12 is losing respect day in, day out as the college football weeks move on, evidenced by West Virginia losing to a MAC school, my Ohio Bobcats, who are now 4-1, Neil, against the Big 12 over the last 5 games. Meanwhile, Scott Satterfield is 0-5 in his last 5 Big 12 games. So I don't know. I feel like I'm being a little too harsh, but at some point you gotta beat the crap out of somebody. Am I right?
Yeah, obviously you want to see that, and it's going to be interesting to see how does Cincinnati kind of respond, especially with the schedule they have this year, right? You
Right.
look
I mean, they
down
gave
at
up, Neil. They went into that halftime locker room, and what were they up at halftime against Bowling Green? You're up 21-3. It's foot on the gas pedal time. It's
Mhm.
48-6 win. We're not letting this team get in the end zone in our house. And what did they do in the third quarter? They put up 7 yards per play on the Bearcats and 17 points, 2 more touchdowns the rest of the game, outscoring Cincinnati in the second half. It's just like stuff like that cannot happen if you want to show people that you're on a true upward trajectory with this program, a program that has now all the bells and whistles at its disposal.
Yeah, and that's a good turning point too, Russ, because you would like to see Cincinnati kind of put their foot on the gas, and that's where we were mentioning we would have loved to see the run game get going in the second half. But for Cincinnati, I don't know if Bowling Green was doing something well that really distracted the run game. I don't know, but you got to have these moments with teams like Bowling Green, Northwestern State. Hey, can we keep our foot on the gas and just blow a team completely out of the water? I mean, you saw what Minnesota did over the weekend to Northwestern State, put up 42 points on them in the first quarter. So, I mean, this team Saturday could be the opportunity to do that and get your get right game before Kansas. But
I
for
mean, come on, man. Like
yeah,
we're not putting any stock into what happens on Saturday
yeah,
unless it's anything less than a 40-point victory. Like people,
yeah.
for example, Minnesota just played Northwestern State recently this past weekend, and they had to call the game because they were up 66-0 with impending weather coming in. They were just like, we're not going to wait it out. The game's already over. It's decided. That's the 6th time that's happened for this program since 2022. I mean, this is a joke operation that they're bringing to Clifton this coming weekend. And it's all for a check. The only reason this game is happening is for a paycheck. So I can't put any stock into anything that happens this coming weekend. I joked on our Bearcats fan page. I mean, it would save people the time and effort if I just wrote 3 sentences after the game is over, recapping the Bearcats finished their 2025 non-conference slate 2-1 after a demolishing of a completely inferior opponent in Northwestern State. End article. Like that's all people are going to need to know. It's completely irrelevant what happens this coming weekend outside of a 50+ point victory.
Yeah, it should be a big performance on Saturday. If they do not win this game by that much, Russ, then that's where you start to kind of question this offense and what's going on. But for Cincinnati, they have to find ways in these other games, especially down the stretch, where you're going to have a complete 4-quarter performance in order to be able to compete for a Big 12 championship, right? Kansas is off to a great start. You have Baylor, who's been playing very well. They just went to double overtime over the weekend again. We look at this schedule, the Big 12 has a lot of good opportunities for Cincinnati, but they're not going to have opportunities where you're going to say, hey, let me just completely blow this team 55-0 per se in the Big 12. They're going to have the 4-quarter performance. So Cincinnati has to find a way to string that together here over the next few weeks.
2 for 7 on third down. 8.3 yards per play was very good. They were efficient with their possessions, but it just left a not so great taste in your mouth, especially the way that they came out of that third quarter defensively and letting a guy like Drew Pine, who's a career 105 to 110 college quarterback rating guy, which is bad. That is not very good. And they let him post a 153.7 rating and another quarterback passing for 70+% completion with no forced turnovers from the defense. Cincinnati lost that battle once again, 1-0, and they gave up Neil, they should have legitimately had a chance to lose this game. If Eddie George has any working brain cells while on the sideline of that game on Saturday, then they are in a really bad position. He just put BG in terrible spots. He paid, I think it was at least 3, if not 4, clear fourth down, go for it situations where he punted the football away. And one of them resulted in Cincinnati immediately taking a punt from their own side of the field. BG punted from Cincinnati's side of the field in opposing territory, and Joe Royer took the first play after that punt, 75 or 73 yards for a career-long catch all the way down to the BGSU red zone. If Bowling Green has anyone smart operating their fourth down decisions in this game, then UC is on the ropes at one point in the second half. And that's just not going to get it done, Neil. And I think you and I are in agreement there. 34-20 was not the performance we expected out of Cincinnati. And it's at some point, you got to put 4 quarters together more than one time in a 34-0 win over Houston, a team that entered the Big 12 at the same time as you. And we'll see if they can do it in 2 weeks, because the upcoming opponent is not really one that we're going to spend a whole lot of time worrying about in the Northwestern State Demons. Quick injury update and highlighting a stellar performance from the defensive side of the ball after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. Bearcats get the job done 34-20 over Bowling Green, Neil, and unfortunately it brought some injury issues to the floor, namely Dante Corleone, who we did not lead the show with because Scott Satterfield said in the post-game press conference that he in all likelihood will be okay. Does not seem to be anything serious. But Neil, he went down in the first half, and you could feel the impact of him not being there, especially on the interior runs. UC had some issues defending the run on the outside run attacks, but especially on the inside, once Dante Corleone left, you could feel his exit after he had a solid day defensively for the Bearcats, was one of their highest graded players in just 10 snaps, had a 78.3 overall grade, just behind Jack Dingle at 80.7. It was actually the best game of Jack Dingle's career, his highest graded PFF performance at Cincinnati by far, and Jalen Mike McClain in the 80s as well at 85.8 overall. But Neil, no Dante Corleone for much of this game, only got 10 snaps out of him. And I mean, there is zero reason to even think about playing him this week if he is not 100% healthy.
And I'm right there with you. I mean, we talked about a moment ago how bad Northwestern State is. I don't know. We don't know the exact extent.
There's no betting line right now, Neil, but S&P Plus projects Northwestern State to have a 50-point spread between them and Cincinnati entering this game.
Yeah, and in a situation like this, too, you don't want to put Dante Corleone out there if he's not 100% heading into conference play versus a really weak opponent in Northwestern State. And I don't know what the injury fully is. Like we mentioned, I kind of saw him get rolled up on
some
maybe,
kind of foot ankle, right? He didn't exactly stipulate.
Yeah, I saw him go into the tent from the press box. Then when he came out, he was getting his left ankle or foot kind of taped. He was trying to jog it off a little bit. He went back in the game after getting it taped, but maybe it just didn't feel right 100%. So then he called it about, 7-8 minutes into the second quarter and said, yeah, let's shut it down for the day. But Scott Satterfield said they didn't think it was anything major, but they definitely noted, hey, this is something to keep an eye on. And when you have somebody who is as talented as Dante Corleone, who is your heart and soul of not only your defense, but your program, essentially, you want him out there at full strength just about as much as possible throughout this season. So I don't think we see him play Saturday. We might, who knows, but for me and Scott, if I was Scott Satterfield, I would hold him out, give him an extra week, and get ready for Big 12 play.
Speaking of other injuries on the defense, no Logan Wilson yesterday, Neil, and that stood out in terms of the pass defense. And guys, outside of Matthew McDoom, who had a nice bounce back performance, solid 65 overall PFF grade and 65 snaps, Ormani Arnold and Daniel James were not great in relief of Logan Wilson. 54.7 overall grade by Arnold in 25 snaps, and James had a 54.2 grade in 55 snaps on the day for Cincinnati. Overall, the entire secondary just did not grade out very well outside of Christian Harrison and Trey Gola-Coward. The safeties had a good day, but the corners struggled a little bit, and that was evidenced by the absence of Logan Wilson, who another player I would be surprised if we see him this week. Just get him ready to roll for Kansas.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And that was an injury that kind of caught everybody by surprise too, Russ, because we did not
Wasn't
know.
really talked about heading into the game, yeah.
Yeah,
and we don't have to have, and they don't have to have the practice injury reports until conference play starts. So
yeah, and what's crazy about that too is, Russ, I was actually there about 2 hours early. Logan Wilson was going through warmups before the game. He was doing every pregame stretch, going through some individual drills. So it doesn't seem serious of an injury, but from what we were told by our sources, it sounds like it's an upper body injury. So nothing too serious, but for me personally, to see him go through individual drills for about 35 minutes before the game on Saturday, it gives you good feeling that he's going to be able to be back on the field sooner rather than later, and probably the same situation as Dante Corleone. Probably give him another week to get fully healthy heading into Kansas as well.
And then one more note here, 5 snaps for Drew Logan, and he went out with an injury as well. So entered the season very healthy and got a little dinged up entering the Northwestern State matchup, which, as Neil and I have just told you, quick note on the Northwestern State Demons. S&P Plus projects Cincinnati to win this game by 50-plus points. 50-plus points. A domination expected at Nippert Stadium this coming weekend. And we will touch on that, preview that the best way we can, the most entertaining. I'm not saying the best. We'll do a good job of it. The most entertaining way we can possible this coming Thursday when we are back at it on Bearcat Blitz. One more quick note as we say goodbye here, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the Big 12 title winner. When will Cincinnati have a chance to take out the top contenders in the Big 12? You can bet on it right now. 30-1, the Bearcats are sitting with those odds, just ahead of Colorado at 33-1, West Virginia at 65-1, UCF at 75-1, and Oklahoma State, after that 60-point destruction at the hands of Oregon, down to 100-1 to win the Big 12. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, right here on the Believe Network. Have a great week. Have a great week, everybody.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. I'm back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one, too.